And then, can you guys still see my screen? Just somebody pop on and let me know if you can still see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. So, presidential qualifications. I'm going to move this guy over here. Yeah. So this is in the day. So you can find this slideshow in today's work. All right, so today I'm just going to have you, the only assignment for today is to work on the executive branch organizer, and there's a link there. So work on chapter 10, lessons 1 and 2. Tomorrow there's going to be an ed puzzle, and I think a couple of you have already done it, on the Electoral College, because we'll be talking about how presidents are elected tomorrow, and that Electoral College discussion, which we started a little bit last week. On Wednesday, hopefully I'm going to have a Schoology quiz ready for you on the organization of the executive branch, just because it's kind of complicated, and you could do that Schoology quiz either Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe I'll move that one to Thursday. And then by Thursday or Friday, make sure you have the organizer complete, because the test will be next Monday. And I know I don't usually like to do that on a Monday, but I figured it would give you time to get that organizer done. So these are all the same thing. This executive branch organizer, it's all the same link. I just have it there so that if you want to get to it, you can get to it. And remember, when you open it up, you save your own copy, because you're not going to be able to write on my copy of it. All right.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes, dear.
So I was going on to look at the other shows for last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I requested access after class. Do you think you could?
Oh, did you emailed me?
It just popped up request access, and I pushed the button.
Yes. Oh, usually I've tried to set those so that everyone could see them, but absolutely, if you can't, in fact, anyone in this group with the link can view it. So it must be one I just forgot to click that. So yeah, I will, if you send it to me, then I'll know which one it is, and I'll make sure it's open for everybody.
Okay, I sent both of them.
Okay, oh, that's weird. Okay, yep, I'll make sure that you can access that. All right. So today we're looking at the formal and informal requirements of the presidency. What are the formal qualifications of the presidency? Well, this is in the Constitution. No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of their adoption of this Constitution, so that doesn't count for anybody anymore, because the Constitution was written in the 1700s. So you have to be a natural-born citizen, which means you were born on U.S. soil. You shall be eligible to be the office of the president. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who has not attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years of resident within the United States. So that means that you have to be born in America or on U.S. soil. For example, a qualification would be you were born on a U.S. Air Force base in a different country. It's still considered U.S. soil because you were born on a U.S. Air Force base or Army base or whatever. You have to be 35 years old. And so far, our youngest president was John F. Kennedy. And you have to have been a resident in the United States for 14 years. So that means, like, let's say you were born in America, but then you went and lived overseas to do work or whatever. You have to have lived here for at least 14 years prior to running to be president of the nation. Okay, so these are just, what are the informal qualifications? This one is just, it's a political cartoon from a couple years ago when Clinton and Bush were running. So you have to be natural born, 35, and must be either Bush or Clinton. And this year you would put Trump and Biden in there. All right. I would like for you guys to just look at these. What qualities must a president have? And think about what you think would be most important to be president of the United States. And then if you can just shout out, if you guys can unmute yourselves and just shout out ideas for what you think would be the most important qualifications. So I'm not going to read them all to you, but let me know, what do you guys think?
Intelligent.
Okay, I would agree with that one. One of mine would be moral and ethical, that you do things in the best interest of the nation. That would be one of mine. Well-informed would be another one I would pick, like understanding how our nation works, how our government works, understanding other nations and how they work, because you're going to be that representative who has to deal with people from other countries also. Anything else, you guys?
Open-minded.
Open-minded, that's a good one. I gotta peek who's in the class again real quick. Okay, I see one person that we're missing. Oops, that's not what you guys want. Okay, yeah, so when somebody's running for president, I mean, we got a lot of junk going on commercials right now. On television, when I don't even like watching like regular TV without being able to fast forward through things, because I'm really sick of political commercials.
Oh my God. So on Hulu, there's always political commercials, and there's always the Joe Biden one where this lady's talking about how his son passed away
Yes, I've seen that one.
so many times.
Yeah, and that's why he thinks healthcare is so important, because he had to stay in. Well, his son died of cancer, I think, and then his wife and other son were killed in a car accident when his son was really little. So that guy's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you guys can all form your own opinions as far as what you think is important for qualities as a president. And those are obviously, when you get to that age where you can vote, are going to help you decide who you want to be president. These are just running through the formal qualifications again of presidency. And then the informal requirements include experience in government, moderate political beliefs. So far, all presidents have been male and Christian. Most have been white, married, and financially successful. Modern presidential candidates must also have strong financial support from a large number of people. So where was that thing I was going to show you guys? Shoot. Let me just page through here quick. Oh, here. So one of the informal qualifications that a president should have would be, we talked a little bit about personal characteristics, political beliefs being in the middle versus very conservative or very liberal. So you need that person that is going to be kind of like somebody that both sides, both Democrats, independents, and Republicans can find some common ground with, generally. They also need leadership skills. So these are just some of the leadership skills that your book mentions. Understanding the public. So being able to know what the public wants is something that's important for a president. They're not always going to make everybody happy. You have to know that. Trump doesn't make everybody happy, but when Obama was president, he didn't make everybody happy. So it has to be somebody that understands those needs of the public. It has to be somebody that can communicate. So our current president communicates via social media a lot. And I don't know if I agree or disagree with that. It shouldn't be the only way a president communicates, but they have to have that ability to get out there in the public and communicate with the public. Sense of timing means that when you're talking about laws and legislation and the economy, that a president should be introducing those things when it's the right time in the nation. That's a really hard one. Political courage means they're willing to stand up for what they believe in, even when it might go against half the country. But here's the problem with the presidency: you're never going to make everybody happy. And then finally, having that ability to compromise. I mean, right now, very little legislation is getting passed because our president is Republican, the Senate is Republican majority, but the House is Democratic majority. And usually when you have to pass laws and things, it has to pass by a majority. So a bill might pass the House, but then it doesn't pass the Senate, or vice versa. It might make it through the Senate, but it doesn't pass the House. So it takes a lot of cooperation and compromise in order to be an effective president. Do those make sense, guys? Okay, I'll keep moving. And I just went through, these are just those key terms. All right, so the next thing to talk about is terms, salary, benefits, and things like that that are associated with the president. So the president serves at most 2 4-year terms. That's something you guys have to know. Presidents are elected for 4 years and can only serve 2 terms. It wasn't always the way it was. It used to be that the president could be president for however long they wanted. George Washington basically retired after serving 2 4-year terms. And then we had the Great Depression and World War II. And during the Great Depression and World War II, you can see on that second bullet point, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, was elected president 4 consecutive terms. The reason he was elected president for 4 terms was he got us through the Depression, which lasted about 10 years, and then it was World War II. So he was elected again because we were looking at going to war, and people trusted him. And then he was elected for a final term while World War II was still going on. And he actually ended up dying in office, but he was elected for 4 terms. People thought that was too much. Now, he did a good job. Once again, not everybody agreed with everything he did, but he did a good job. But they also worried that if it was a president that wasn't going to do a good job, we wouldn't necessarily want him there for 16 years. So our nation passed the 22nd Amendment that cut the terms from any amount, because then you can become very king-like, to having only 2 terms. Does anyone have any questions with that? Okay. The next bullet point here is compensation. Compensation and benefits. So what does the president make? Do you guys know? Does anyone know how much a president makes? Anyone want to guess? Oh, come on. If you were in class, you guys would be making guesses. Anybody want?
A lot.
How much do you think is a lot?
What was the question?
What's the president's salary? How much does he make a year?
I'd say 60 million.
Anybody else?
10 million.
10 million? Those are good guesses. Anybody else? He makes $400,000 a year. That's it. Much less than professional athletes, actors, CEOs of corporations. He makes
$4,000 a year for being president.
$400,000.
Oh.
So yes, it's a lot of money, but it's nowhere near probably its worth. But it is a government job. Senators and representatives make $173,000 a year, which I know at your age sounds like a lot of money, but if that's their only job and they don't have other jobs, it's not that much money. It's a lot of money, but it's less than like you would think it would be. Now, he does get some benefits with that. He gets a travel allowance of up to $100,000 a year, and that means that includes everything. So the president doesn't just stay in Washington, D.C. He has to go all over the country, actually all over the world. Presidents often go to other foreign countries and things like that. So he gets a travel allowance of $100,000 a year. If he spends more than that, it comes out of his own pocket. Once again, I know that sounds like a ton of money to you guys, but as president, it's not as much as you think it is. He also gets a $50,000 expense account, and that's for things like taking dignitaries to dinner, or it's for like little things that you wouldn't think about. So once again, it's a lot of money, but as president of our nation, he makes less than a high-paid doctor makes. So it's just something to think about. He also gets use of things like Air Force One. There's Camp David, which is like the president's private retreat where they can go like on vacation. Most presidents don't go vacation to other places in the world because they're the president, and the Secret Service that's associated with bringing them and their family places, the costs are exorbitant, meaning like lots and lots of money. So Camp David is this place it's a safe place for presidents to go when they get a little bit of time off, which isn't a whole lot of time. Now, Trump has been going to his private clubs and things like that, which a lot of people have disagreed with because it costs the nation millions and millions of dollars every time he goes because of the security involved with securing a public location. But I mean, that it is what it is. And then the president also gets, he will get Secret Service for the rest of his life for him and his family. And he will also get, let's see, they get about $200,000 a year pension, meaning when they retire, they get that each year after they retire. So do remember that most presidents are already at retirement age when they become president. Not all, like Obama was a little bit younger, but Trump and Biden are both at retirement age. So they'll be eligible for that $200,000 a year when they're done. Okay, the vice president, what do they do? So a lot of times people wonder, what does the vice president do? The first thing that the vice president does is if something happens to the president, the vice president would step in. The second thing they do is preside over the Senate. So they have a big role in our lawmaking process because remember, they are the head of the Senate and they vote in the event of a tie. The vice president would also do anything that the president needs help with in order for the president to carry out their duties. And other responsibilities are very dependent on the president themselves. Like, what does the president want them to do? So that role changes throughout time. So how important is the role of the vice president? These are just some quotes. Once there were two brothers. One ran away to the sea. The other was elected vice president of the United States. And nothing was heard of either of them again. I do not choose to be buried until I'm already dead in my coffin. Daniel Webster. The vice president is the most insignificant office that ever the invention of man contrived or his imagination conceived. John Adams, the first vice president, said that. When asked about the vice presidency, he said it was not worth a bucket of warm spit. That was the vice president of FDR. So through time, people have not felt that the vice presidency role was that important. The truth is it is, and it's become a much bigger role nowadays because there's just so much more that the president has to deal with. But throughout time, people didn't think that the vice presidency was worth much. The role of the vice president. While you were under, everything went fine except Cheney invaded Canada. So this is back from when Bush was president, and he had a short time where he had a surgery. So Vice President Cheney was temporarily in charge of the nation, and it's just a joke saying he invaded Canada, which obviously didn't really happen. But yeah, the vice president doesn't have much. Now, when Trump was sick with COVID a couple weeks ago, there was talk about Vice President Pence kind of taking over control just temporarily while he was in the hospital, just in case something happened. And had he had to go on a ventilator and things like that, then Pence might have been temporarily in control. That doesn't mean that they take over the whole country. It just means that they're doing the president's duties while he's unable to. Okay. Another thing to note is that if the president dies, who becomes president? You guys know this one, right?
The vice president?
Yeah, the vice president. The 25th Amendment looks at presidential succession. So here is a list of who would become president in what order after the vice president. So let's say the president and the vice president were both in an accident together. They were at the same place and they were both killed. The Speaker of the House, so the leader of the House of Representatives, would be the next person in line. After that would be the leader of the Senate, the president pro tempore of the Senate. And then it would go to different cabinet members with the Secretary of State, Treasury, Defense, and all the way down, except for the Attorney General. That's a different one, but all these people in the cabinet would be next in line for succession. There's a really cool television show, it's on Netflix, called Designated Survivor. And it's this worst case scenario. Basically, I won't ruin anything by telling it to you. Basically, the president is giving a State of the Union address at the Capitol, and the Capitol's bombed, and everybody dies. So who becomes president? So that's the premise of the show. And actually, this person, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, is the person that becomes president. But these cabinet members, a lot of times, have no experience that would lead them to be like a great president. They are really good in whatever they're the head of. So like the Secretary of Defense is often somebody that served in the military. The Attorney General is somebody that has been working with the court system, maybe as a lawyer, maybe as a judge for many, many years. But most of these other people don't have the same qualifications as president. So it'd be interesting to know what would actually happen. Oops, I gotta move this little guy again. Okay. This is just a list of people that were president that later became, or vice president that later became president of the United States. So you don't have to memorize this. It won't be on a test. There will be questions about the presidential succession. This is just something interesting to note, that being vice president may later push you in the direction of becoming president of the United States. Okay, so that's it. This is in your executive branch organizer. So you guys can work on that today. That's the only thing I have for you today. So you should be done with chapter 9 and chapter 10, sections 1 and 2 in that organizer by the end of today. If you're staying up with that and you're staying up with the reading and the notes, it should really help you when you get to the test. You should know this stuff. It should be okay. Tomorrow we're going to talk about electing the president. We'll talk about that electoral college again, and how you get to that, how you win the presidency. And it'll be really interesting how that plays out with our actual election next week. So that being said, I'm going to stop my video for today, and then hold on because I'll be here for questions.